Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in. As always, I am Katie Bateman, the Content Director at SheCanCode, and today we're discussing juggling motherhood and working in tech, designing your own work-life balance. Now, 72% of women in the tech industry believe their careers are still suffering due to childcare and family responsibilities, according to a survey of 100 female tech leaders by London Tech Week. To be a successful working mother, it takes passion, drive, and courage, but also the support of a really good employer. Today, I've got the wonderful Maria Chappell, analytics engineer at Dojo, with me today to share her experience of being a working parent in tech and how the support of your employer can make such a difference. Welcome, Maria.
Hi there.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come and have a chat with us today. We've had a few conversations about this on the podcast, but not in as much detail as this. So this I'm really looking forward to hearing your insights into being a working parent and how you navigate that. So we're going to kick off the conversation though with a little bit about yourself, if that's okay. If you can share a bit about your background to set the scene.
Sure. So hi there. Thanks for having me today. I'm an analytics engineer here at Dojo. I work in that's part of the data organization. So I work within the data kind of function. My role it's a very technical role. It involves a lot of coding, hence why we're on this podcast. But my background actually isn't traditionally in that area. So I've actually come from a buying background, and I did a lot of category management for many years. But numbers has always been like really key for me, and like looking and analysing, and I've always wanted to do that and have access to data and numbers. And so I gradually started doing more and more reporting for certainly for myself and our team, and then gradually other people in the business were like, oh, this is really cool, oh, you're producing some great stuff here, can you do this for us? And I kind of just moved gradually into a more like analytical role. I was then a commercial analyst for that company, and then I realized, oh, actually I really like this, I want to deep dive more into this. So then I transitioned I moved to Dojo actually, which was and my role then was actually BI analyst, and it involved a lot of kind of doing more front-end analysis, producing reports. But at the back of my mind, I still had this niggle. I really liked writing SQL code. I really liked, and I learned it myself. So just did some online courses, to kind of plug a gap where we didn't have access to reports. So I was doing it myself. And then, so I came to Dojo and was writing these reports, but at the back of my mind, I was always like, how does this data get produced? Where do we get it? How did it come into our data warehouse? How do we transform it? Because that layer wasn't like visible to me, but that is now what I do. And I've transitioned into that, and I'm just absolutely loving it.
It's so interesting when people say they like numbers and data, but I mean, I work with words, and you're kind of one or the other, aren't you? You kind of,
I think so.
You're frightened of what I'm frightened of numbers, and you are one or the other. Were you always like that though? Were you like that at school? Did you like maths? What subjects did you like?
Yes, always loved maths. Maths was my highest scoring subject. But when I went to school, I couldn't really see or didn't know of any careers where maths could take you other than being a teacher. And not that I didn't want to be a teacher, I did consider it, but I was like, I don't know where to go with this. And certainly things like coding was just not around when I was thinking of going to uni. So it's very exciting. I'm so excited for like current generations who can do this at uni, especially girls. But so I was like, I do like maths, but I'm really interested in history. I still love history, and particularly like architecture and buildings. So that's actually what I went to do at uni. And I did that, and I also did a master's, really just trying to figure out what am I going to do. And then I really enjoyed it, and I think it gives you lots of skills. I actually, part of what I did in that course in the masters was analysing a lot of maps, and that's probably where that was like ticking a box for me, where I was like, oh, I'm analysing data here without realising it. I thought I was doing history, but actually I was like analysing maps, and we were plotting evidence and things. So yeah, I probably subconsciously that's what I was looking for. And then, you know, when you leave uni, you're just like looking for a job. So I started temping at a stationery company, and then an internal role came up for a junior buyer, and I thought, oh, okay, don't know what I want to do yet, so I'll just go for it. And it says that you kind of need to be good at like thinking and like looking at numbers, and I'm like, yeah, I think I can. So, and then once I got in, I was like, I love this, like analyzing how products perform, looking at like pricing, and like, you know, negotiating with suppliers on pricing and stuff like that, because you've got to analyze data in order to know what you're going to be negotiating on, or for something, or, you know, what products you want to be purchasing. So I think, so I just went down that path and really enjoyed it. And I spent many years in that industry, and built up to like senior buyer, category manager. I ran a team briefly, and I think at the back, it's using data has always been key in those roles. And then gradually, as I got into the more commercial analysis, I just realized, oh, I think I'm really like hitting something here. This is actually what I really want to go down. Yeah, and I just think it's I didn't know it at the time when I was at school, but yeah, I think that's what I've kind of have always like probably wanted to go into.
It's so interesting to always hear how people end up in tech, because a lot of people have that misconception, if you don't take a computer science degree at university, you know, you haven't got a career map into tech. But 9 times out of 10, even the people on this podcast, they have such an interesting way in, and a lot of them have not come in via a computer science degree and find their way in through lots of different routes. But they tend to have something about them when they were a child. They liked something about a STEM subject. And as you said, a lot of people didn't have people come into their schools and show them what kind of career paths are available, which thankfully, you know, is growing now. And more people in the industry are sharing, obviously, what a great industry it is to work in. But you're absolutely right, unless you fall into it or somebody encourages you into that direction. It is a shame to hear that people fall in, but then obviously, you know, great talent is coming into the tech industry every day. So yeah, these people are eventually making it, and yourself eventually made it. What would you say you are most proud of in your career so far?
I think the thing I'm most proud of is doing all those transitions. So going from being a buyer to category manager, and then transitioning into like a more analyst role, and then doing more kind of front-end analysis, and then pivoting that into what I do now, which is the back-end coding and being an engineer. I'm really proud of saying that. When I tell my friends, like, oh, this is now my job title, it's not just that my job title has changed, it's that I am a coder, I am an engineer, and I love that. I'm really proud of that.
It's a very cool ring to it.
Yeah.
And also you said that you were self-taught a little bit as well. That's quite a unique skill, isn't it? And I've heard that a lot from people that work in technology, that a lot of engineers, for instance, they're always self-learning, they're always continually learning in and out of the workplace. And I suppose it's one of those traits, isn't it, of people that work in your area?
I think so, yeah. I think you have to be keen to learn, and self-learning, I mean, it's important, but it's just this desire. But you're learning, it's not even just about, oh, can I just find an online course? It's learning is a mindset. It's also like, in your role, are you like learning from others? Are you learning? So it's even when you're within the role, listening to, say, peers or seniors around you who do your role, and like, how are they doing this? And like learning like that as well is really important. but also self-learning. So for me, because I didn't have that technical background, I didn't go to university to study this. It was just, I essentially just bugged the tech department for a long time. I was like, I just really need to see some data. I can't make any decisions without seeing this data. And I bugged them for so long. And then eventually the head of tech, he's just like, oh, just give Maria access to this SQL and just let her, if she can figure it out, just let her. And so I was like, right, I will do this. And I was determined to prove to them, like, I can do this, I can learn SQL, and I will start writing reports, and I'll produce something valuable to the company. And and I did. And I used to just stay behind after work in some evenings and do that. When people would leave and it would be quiet in the office, say, or perhaps when I got home, just do like a bit of research online. But definitely having an eagerness to learn is important.
Yes, definitely. And with yourself, you juggle learning and motherhood, and that's what we're going to be focusing our conversation on today, about juggling a work-life balance and being at the right employer. But I'm curious, did you take maternity leave whilst at Dojo, and what was your experience of that?
Yeah, I did. So I'd already worked at Dojo for just over a year, and then I did go on to maternity leave. Well, in my experience, leading up to it, it was my first and only child. I was very nervous. I was just so worried, like, how am I leaving all my work? Am I going to get everything finished? And I was just so nervous of leaving. And I made sure I did all sorts of handovers and all this kind of thing. But then the minute you are on maternity leave, your world is upside down. It's just totally changed, and you don't think about work at all. And everything I worried about in the lead up to going on that leave, it goes out of your mind. And that's good, because you do have like something new in your life, and you really do need to focus on that, and that's important. And I didn't think about work for, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I didn't think about work for a long time, and it was great.
It's a good thing.
Yeah. And then, but I had friends at work, so I did stay in touch, but more in a social sense rather than, oh, what's going on in the world of data. But what was going on was there was a whole restructure in the business was happening, in the business itself, but also within the data organisation. So a chief data officer had come in, he'd brought other team members over from another company, and they were building out, they brought with them lots of new tools that I hadn't ever used. They brought over new techniques. As part of building out that new data organisation, a lot of what I've mentioned previously, which is the access to the raw data, like how do we get it into our data warehouse, how do we transform the data, what logic do we apply, all of that side of it suddenly sat with us. And then I as the time approached for me to come back to work, then I started getting nervous, and I'd heard, oh, there's lots of things changing, oh, there's loads of new people, you've got a new boss, you've never met him. And I was like, oh gosh. But Mike did reach out a number of times, and I did go into the office and I met him, and it was, he really reassured me. He just put me at ease. He was like, just enjoy the rest of the time, I just wanted to check if you're okay. And it was really good. And then once the day came, I'm like walking into the office, absolutely petrified. I'm like, oh my God, how is it going to be? I've forgotten everything. But it was fine. Like, Dojo was so lovely. Everyone, like from people in the people team to Mike, to the new people in the data organization, they were just lovely. They would just welcome me back in and just gave me that time to kind of build myself up to speed. I had to learn all of the changes about the business. We'd gone from being payment sense to Dojo, and we launched like lots of new products, so I had to learn all of that, and then learn all of the new tools. So we went from SQL and Power BI to everything Google based, so BigQuery, DBT, Looker, so it was all new tools. And so I had to learn that all from scratch, but they just gave me the time, and they just said, you take your time, Maria, this is what you need to learn, and they let me do that. And
that would be so hard, wouldn't it, if you didn't have a team that was saying that to you? I mean, a lot of ladies worry about coming back, but I mean, that must be the reality for lots of ladies that come back to that and think, you know, now I'm at a point where I might have to leave a job that I previously loved.
Oh yeah, and I was so worried, like, am I performing to where they expect? Am I adding value? Am I, and especially because I did come back part-time, that was another added factor. I was so worried about that, like, how will it reflect? How will people think I'm doing less work? Or and it wasn't the case at all. It was just in my head, and I think that's something I'd advise anyone, like, don't work yourself up about these things, because it is just in your own head. Certainly at Dojo, they really recognise working parents, so mums and dads. There's a big, like, parents community, and there's lots of active dads in our community as well, so it's both. But you don't need to worry. They do give you the space to come back. They recognise you have been, so I took the full year, and of course you're going to forget stuff, you know. You've just been changing nappies and singing nursery rhymes for a year, so you know, your brain's
not
full of
part
other
of the
things.
job you come back to.
So you just need, but it does all come back. It is, a lot of it is like muscle memory. You do start, I was so worried, can I remember how to write code? How do I write, you know, all these statements? So, and it does come back, it really does. You just, like, practice it and keep doing it a few more times, and then it clicks again.
Just having that safe space that it's okay. And I suppose, did you feel like you almost had to keep apologizing? You know, you said I being part-time as well, you sort of kept thinking, is this okay? Am I doing, you know, everything that they wanted me to do? I suppose you almost wanted to keep saying, I'm really sorry, and actually it just sounds like you were reassured that you don't have to keep apologizing being a parent. It's fine. You're still as skilled as you were before you left.
And that's another thing. So I, you know, some mornings it would be, in the first 3 days, it would be a nightmare, like getting out the door, getting ready, getting Eva down to nursery, and then occasionally I wouldn't log on, like, dead on 9. It would be a little bit after, and I'd be like sending my manager messages, I'm so sorry, I'm late, I'll make it up at the end of the day. And they're like, don't worry about it, you know, like, we're not here clock watching, you know, we know that you're gonna, and that trust element is also really important. I think that they did trust me. They knew from work, because I had worked there before, so they knew, like, what my work was. They knew I was reliable, and so they did trust me. But at first I always thought, oh God, I've got to apologize for this or apologize for that, and then it was like, no, Maria, just stop doing that. It's fun.
How was it from the other side as well? How did you feel yourself coming back? Did you have, you know, what they would refer to as mum guilt? How did you deal with going back?
I did. So I was so nervous of dropping. So I was on, most of the time I was on maternity leave. We were in lockdown, so we didn't have those kind of meetups with other mums and things like that. We didn't really go to many of those, because just as we started to go to them, then we had lockdown. So I was really worried, like, you know, my daughter hasn't interacted really with any other babies, and also she hasn't interacted much with my family, because we were having to do a lot of long, you know, Zoom calls, family calls and things like that. So I just thought, gosh, you know, well, how is she going to be? And I was really worried. And then the whole thing of, like, I'm not with her, but we had the, like, a settling in week where you go and you do 1 hour drop off, and then the next day you have 2 hours and you build it up. And from the first day, she was just waving to me like, bye mummy, I'm off. And that was it. And she was absolutely fine. She was loving it. And after that first week, I just thought, oh, I know she'll be fine. And she, like, they reported back that she really loved it. She's very social, and she got stuck in straight away. And so it was more like my nerves of leaving her, but actually she was fine. And then she's
happy, then
good. So yeah, so and then once, after a few weeks and of seeing that, and like on her days that she wasn't going in, she'd pick up her little rucksack and go to the front door and just be waiting, like, are we going to preschool or nursery? So I then wasn't, I kind of got over that like nervousness or guilt.
I only saw a lady yesterday on the train, and she was waving off. She got on the train and I saw her, she was dressed for work, and she was waving back at a little boy, and I could see her like that, and she's with I'm assuming the grandparent, and I could see as we pulled out, this woman just looked like that just tore her heart out that she was leaving, because I could see her mouth think, are you okay? And she's thinking, I just feel dreadful that I'm going to work. And we made it to the next station, and she got off the train, and I saw her run back down the platform, and I was always feeling for her. I was like, she was thinking, you know what, I can't do it, and she just ran back down, and probably went straight over the bridge and back home. So yeah, it was only yesterday. But as you say, if you see that your child is happy where they're going, that's going to help you mentally, and then you can get on with what you need to. So then, as a working mum, what does an average workday look like for you? I mean, mornings must be crazy, and then what does an average workday look like?
Yeah, so fortunately, so she's still at preschool, so they're open from 8 a.m. till 6, so it kind of covers all of my working hours. So once I do drop her off, the morning is hectic. We have the negotiate. I've never realized how much you need to negotiate with a toddler. This has definitely improved my negotiation skills. I hope.
Transitioning skill. Yeah.
So it's picking the outfit, it's getting the breakfast, it's doing the hair, what hairstyle, and this, so you have all of that as well as trying to get yourself ready and pack up. So but then once we are out the door, and fortunately where we drop her off to nursery is en route to the tube station, so it's quite convenient. I'd say it's not too impactful for us. I'm lucky my husband also works a kind of office job. He runs his own business, so he can be quite flexible on his hours as well. So we split it up during the week. I work 4 days a week, so we do like 2 days each, drop off and collection, and we just have to be a bit organized. You just have to know, I'm doing this day or I'm doing that day. But yeah, it's working fine so far.
Yeah. I think, you said you have to be incredibly organized, and to juggle your role and being a parent. I'm wondering about boundaries. How do you set those boundaries at work, and did you feel like you could set boundaries quite easily and just say, do you block out things in your calendar and people just kind of respect, you're missing at these times if you need to do a pickup or something like that? Have you found that quite easy to do?
Yeah, I think so. So I know when I first came back, so the nursery have these, I think a lot of nurseries do have these apps where they upload like photos every day, and they say what your child's eaten and what they've been doing. And I'd be like, every couple of hours I'd be looking, is there something uploaded? Is Eva okay? Like, and then I just realized, no, I need to stop doing this. She's absolutely fine. I can just look at the end of the day. So I then soon realized, no, once I'm in work, and I just focus. Of course, like I'll think about her during the day, but I won't worry. I won't, so yeah. And then as soon as the working day is finished, or it comes to the time I need to go and collect her, then I'll be like, all right, I'll have a look at the app now, see what photos are there. I'll just spend 5 minutes, and then I'll go and collect her, or I'll do it on my tube home. And then once she's home, I won't do anything work related. I think, no, that's our time now. We'll spend together, we'll do some playing, we'll have she has another dinner, she's a big eater. And then we'll go into bedtime routine. And then if there is anything that I do need to finish for work, or if I have had to for whatever reason pick her up early, or I feel like I need to make up some time, then I'll do that all after she's gone to bed, so that in those couple of hours that her mummy is like her mummy, and she's focused and I'm focused on her, and I think that's really important, is once you are in either work or on her, if you just keep focused, and then I suppose that's, to your point, setting the boundaries.
Yes, because you saying as well, when you came back you worked part-time, I've heard before on this podcast about setting boundaries is good for everybody, whether or not it's the person that's working part-time or your team that might still be working full-time, because they know where you are at what times, instead of when some people take holiday or they work part-time and they pop up on their day off, and that really confuses everybody, and you think it's actually just healthier if everybody just set their boundaries and stick to them, because they know what to expect from you and when, and they don't expect more from you than what you can give, and vice versa. So, I suppose it's just getting into that routine, as you said, and sticking to it.
And it's not easy at first, because you have this guilt both ways. You have the guilt towards your child and the guilt towards work, and so you feel like, oh no, I need to be available for everyone all the time, and you just have to, and you'll learn it will come, and you just think, no, I've got to set the boundaries. I'm either one or the other at this moment in time, and and it does come, and then you just got to be strict with yourself and strict with others, and
yes, exactly. That is so such good advice, just to be strict with it. What do you think are the most important things working parents should know about working at Dojo?
I think it's that point there, if you can't be everything. You can't so one thing I had is a little bit of this kind of imposter syndrome thing, where I really worried that I wasn't technically skilled as well as everyone else, because they're either new into the business and have come from more technical backgrounds, or they've stayed during the time that I was on my maternity leave, and I'm the only one who's been off, and I know, oh my God, I'm not skilled enough. And I just really worried about that. And then I thought, and then so I agonized, and I just really wanted to make sure I learned everything I'd be, but soon I realized, and others around me just said, well, but you are picking it up, for how long you've been working on this, you have got it, you are there. And and having that reassurance from others was really key for me, for someone who's not as confident as perhaps others might be. So that helped build a bit of my self-belief, but then also recognizing, well, hang on, okay, so I've got these technical skills, perhaps they're not as I might be 95% of someone else, or whatever it is, I don't know, but actually I've got other skills, and I'm actually really good at things like the soft skills. I'm really good at talking to stakeholders. I'm really good at organizing my time. I'm really good at understanding stakeholders and communicating. So actually it's fine. You can't be the best at everything, but actually you are skilled at something, and I'm particularly well skilled at that. So I think that it's remembering not to also compare yourself to others, because yes, someone will be more technically advanced than you or more technically skilled, but perhaps they don't have the other things that you do have. And that I'm saying this from like I've nailed this point, but it took me a long time to learn that in myself. And my great friend George, he was just reminding me about that last night, it's others around you just telling you that as well, and then you've got to start learning and believing that in that yourself, and yes, stop the comparisons, because you are valuable as an individual. The other thing as well actually is the thing that I struggled with was this on part-time, because I started on 3 days and then I increased to 4 days, and am I adding as much to the team? Am I bringing enough to the table as everyone else, because I'm only on 3 or even 4 days? And actually, I am. If you just maybe prorated what others were doing, I am bringing enough to the table. I'm bringing other things. So I think that you need to get out of your head as well. You need to.
I suppose mixed with, if you having those thoughts, which are so natural, and so many of us in tech have imposter syndrome, and we've had whole webinars on it, because so many people feel that way. I suppose mixing that feeling with being at the wrong employer, just, you know, mentally you just would not feel safe and you would leave.
Yeah.
Do you find, you know, you think that perhaps you feel more loyal as an employee as well, because you were at an employer that was very supportive of you, you know, going on maternity leave and coming back, and that's made you just feel more loyal towards them? Whereas, you know, if you were at an employer and you felt actually that was very difficult for me to do, you might now be thinking, yeah, I'm going to stick this out for as long as I can, you know, maybe the next few months, and just see when the next job takes me. But was that feeling perhaps that you still have now?
Yeah, definitely. Yes, I think having a supportive employer is so important, and having team members around you as well that are also patient and recognise your position, it's really crucial. And it not only for you just as an individual, but always, you know, doing the job that you do, but also developing in the job you do. So when I went on maternity leave, I was a BI analyst, and then I came back, and because of the way that the new data team was, the new organisation, it had hugely expanded. Our roles were developing into this analytics engineer, although at the time we didn't know, that wasn't a kind of title that we had. And I was given the opportunity. So they recognised that, you know, you've just come back, you're learning all these new skills. So they put me on projects that were less time sensitive. So I was still doing work for the business. It was still important, key work, but it didn't have that kind of critical time factor for like a stakeholder need this by certain time points. So it gave me the time to like learn it, improve on it, develop those skills, and that kind of has pivoted me into what is now an analytics engineer. And I think actually that's me going on maternity leave and coming back and being given that space to do that. That's actually what's, you know, pivoted me into this role. And perhaps maybe I wouldn't have had that opportunity had I not, you know, been on maternity leave. I don't know.
Yeah, or then giving you the space, you probably thought, actually I can't cope with what's happening, and
yeah,
you might have just gone elsewhere, instead of, you know, just not having that time to ease yourself back in.
Yeah.
So you mentioned obviously like there's a big support around you. You mentioned some people as well, also just reminding you to remember all the good things, all the other skills that are great about yourself and your role. Do you have a mentor that helps with that, or do you have a wider support network?
Not a mentor specifically, not one single person, but I think there are probably certain few that I do lean towards, and you know, I'll often seek advice from, or you know, check in. My colleagues George, Emanuela, in particular, and I wouldn't say it's necessarily only females. I think that's you can have a male as a mentor as well. And I know just before I went on maternity leave, there was a chap in the finance department, Dave, who he really inspired me. So he's very family focused. He recognises the importance of that, and I remember him telling me before I went, he was like, don't forget about work, you just focus on being a mum. That is your most important work or job, you know, in your life right now, and you know, don't think about work. And he told me some lovely stories of it. So he did like shared paternity, and that he really inspired me actually at the time. And so I think it wasn't having one single person, but more a little network around me, I guess, who I've reached out to.
Well, so it sounds like he gave you some great advice, and that you've got them from different areas. What advice would you give yourself if you were just starting out? Is there anything that you wish that somebody had told you, or that you could, you know, go back in time and tell yourself before you started out in tech, and also, you know, before you became a mum?
Yeah, that's a great question. Probably it's back to that same point of you can't be everything, and just reminding yourself that, and you can't be perfect at everything, and just remembering that. And as long as you're you know, aiming towards perfecting something, an element, then you're doing a great job. And just remaining, you know, knowing that you do have to portion your time between your child and your work, but when you do, like, know what those boundaries are, and yeah, focus. And on the day that I don't work, I'm all mum, you know. Eva's got me, and we do lots of things that are just mine and hers, like activities together. And I think, yeah, that's important.
I suppose also that you're just remembering that your employer doesn't expect you to be everything either. That's the thing. I think it's an unnecessary pressure that we put on ourselves, whether you're a parent or not. There is always, I've had ladies on here who said, when I've stepped up into a management role, the first thought I had was, everybody expects me to know everything. And it's a ridiculous thought to have, because nobody expects that of you throughout your career. And there is a team there to support you. But sometimes it just takes a moment to step back and remember that, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think one thing that being a mum or being a parent, it doesn't necessarily give you these skills, but it certainly gives you time to practice a lot of your kind of more softer skills, and those are just invaluable in the workplace. You know, those are the harder things to, I think, learn or acquire, and being a parent, you will certainly practice that a lot. So you know, that's another thing to remember, is that you're getting that platform to practice those skills, and then you can apportion more time to, like, upskilling yourself technically if that's what you want to do. So
yes, fabulous. Well, thank you. That is a lovely note to end it on, Maria, because we're already out of time. It's absolutely flown by. So thank you so much for taking the time to come and have a chat with us today. It's been a pleasure.
No, thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you to everybody listening. As always, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you again next time.